Hello, today is a beautiful day. I'm over here in one of my favorite fishing creeks. It's a new one that I found this year, coming out to it probably about for the 5th time. When I've come out, I've typically done very well here. So I'm gonna go out. Don't know what today's gonna be. Today's actually a pretty cold day. We've had some very unseasonably warm weather, and the temperature dropped last night down into the low 40s, and so I'm going to go out here and see if the fish are biting. I hope there's going to be some good fishing. It looks like I'm the only one out here. I don't see anyone else out here at this time, so let's go out and see what can happen, and hopefully I'll have some pretty good videos to show you. Here we go. I caught my first smallmouth bass. Say hello to everybody. He's a pretty strong fighter, considering that this is some pretty cold weather right now. So I'm going to release him. Let's see if we can catch some more. Got myself another smallmouth bass. Caught him on the Largemouth. Looks like he has some battle wounds, but nice little fish. So we'll put him back and let him get bigger. Woo! Just pulled a pretty nice smallmouth bass right out from that wood. It's a big old mess in there, but I cast in there and got this nice smallmouth. So got him right in that fleshy meat part. See if I can back it out. There we go. What a nice, beautiful fish. His one eye looks like it has some damage. I'm going to put him over here on the other side of it, just because it's a lot healthier. Don't typically throw the from there. Just threw it back in, and no sooner put it in there, I caught another one. Another fat boy. Ooh, this is a largemouth bass. Came out. Look at that, boy. What a beautiful fat fish. Yes, they're definitely fattening up for winter. If you look inside his mouth right here, you can see he already has a fish that he's already eaten. Hopefully you can see that, but they're definitely fattening up, trying to get ready for winter. And today's the first really cold day that they have, and like I said, I'm putting them over there so that they don't necessarily spook, and I'm gonna try to catch another fish right in this spot. This is, I always tell people, this is one of the best times to go fishing, because the fish are truly trying to prepare themselves for winter. And when they do that, they gorge themselves, and it can be a great time to fish and try to get something. Of course, I'm using a Largemouth, which is a great lure. That's like a bottom crustacean, and it's something that they'll want. Whoops, I did have a bite. Let's see if I can go back in there and get him. Yes, he's a little guy. It's a rock bass, but you can see the rock bass right there. He's a little fella. In fact, he might want to be careful. say hello to everybody. Make sure this isn't your last trip, because there's some big ones out here that look like you could fit right in them. So gonna head right back out there. This would be I've caught 3 fish from here. I want to see if I can catch another one. I'm going to cast back in there and see if I can land another one. They seem like they've bunched up in this particular spot. Shake it off, cast maybe a little bit, oops, a little bit to the other side. Let's see. I got a bite. Whoops, that feels like a smaller one. So not only are the smallmouth hanging out and bunching up right here, but it would give the appearance to me that we're also seeing some of the smaller bait fish, or some of the smaller prey fish like rock bass, and that hanging out in this as well, which isn't totally surprising. There we go. That's this nice little bass. As I shared with you, they're presently in the place of trying to fatten themselves up, getting ready for the winter. And of course, as I've shared with you, last night was probably the first real taste for these fish of a cold night coming. And you can see what a beautiful, healthy looking smallmouth bass. So we're going to put that one back. You notice with the bigger ones, I'm throwing out further. One, trying to keep them out of the way for the moment so that I can see if there's any other nice smallmouth bass. And of course, I caught 1 smallmouth bass and then 1 largemouth bass. And of course, this is really dirty water, at least as things are piling up in this spot. But you can see it's loaded with fish. Most people would pass by something like this and think there's nothing there. And yet you and I are discovering that there's quite a few fish here. And right here, we just got a bluegill. In fact, these bluegill might want to be careful, because that bass might have had one of them in his mouth, in his stomach when I caught him. And I've lost count how many fish I've actually caught out of this one. But I've caught quite a few in just literally one spot, and I'm getting more hits now. So if you look, you could see some beautiful deer walking across the creek that I'm fishing. He's looking at me. Presently, I'm fishing with my whopper plopper. It does very well. You can see it's been worked out pretty good this year. I've caught quite a few bass, paint's wearing off. I even had to change one of the hooks because the hooks broke off. But gonna put it out here and see if I can drum up a nice bass. And I prefer a little smoother landing. But I do love the action of this. It seems to be something that just very subtly and smoothly goes across the water. I've seen a lot of people use it in multiple ways. Some people use it with a very fast retrieve. I have found that for me, particularly in the small creeks and rivers, just a slow, steady retrieve like what I'm doing right now seems to be a good response with this whopper plopper. I also tend to hold my rod tip up, giving me, you know, good, whoops, let's see if it'll get off that tree. Yes. I also try to keep it, my rod tip up, to help with the action of the whopper plopper. I've seen some people do it from the side, some people do it pointed down or whatever, and I guess some of those techniques can work. For me, I have found that it was better to do it long ways, cast up, whoops, and then take it and keep the rod tip up so that the fish can respond properly. I just caught a little guy here. Haven't seen him yet. There he is. Oops, he just popped off. Yeah, it popped off and he ran into my foot. He was probably only about 8 inches. If you notice in the water right there, there's some, it looks like a tire, but you won't be able to see it, but there's a tire and some brush that has fallen in there right about the little past center of the creek. And so I'm going to try to cast beyond it a little bit and then bring it over that, which should, if everything goes well, drum up a bass. Might not be a huge one, but it should be at least a decent bass. So let's see if I can get it. There is a low-hanging branch there, so I got to try to maneuver with that, but here we go. I've also discovered that sometimes when it comes to doing that kind of thing, you got to do one more just to fully get their attention, because the first one is like it gets them alert that something just passed overhead that they weren't expecting. So I always like to not give up too quick and readily on a spot that I think could hold one. I'm going to cast actually up the river on this one and see if it will make any difference, because sometimes they're not in it as much as they're looking away from it or around it to go after whatever it is that they see. So got the wind blowing, so I'm trying to contend with the wind. But those are some pretty good casts that if there was something hiding out in there, it should have come up and exploded. I think I'm going to try one more time, take a chance of trying to go between that hanging low branch and the brush and the tire that I'm trying to get to. All right, I steered around it. I think I'm going to try one more and then I'm going to move on. I never know why one time it works and the next time it doesn't, but it looks like a place that if I were a bass, it would be a great place. Caught this beautiful fish. The water right here is quite shallow, but even in that shallow water, I was able to catch this beautiful fish, and it's very healthy. Say hello, everybody. You're making your debut.